Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. In 1967, we got the pleasure of seeing a crime film that was directed by John Boorman. That movie was Point Blank, and it starred Lee Marvin, Angie Dickinson, Keenan Wynn, and Carol O'Connor. It was adapted from a 1963 novel called The Hunter by Donald Westlake. Boorman directed the movie at Marvin's request, and Marvin played a central role in the movie's development. The production was a really big hit, grossing over $9 million in theatrical rentals for that year, and it has gone on to become a cult classic. The storyline follows a ruthless crook named Walker, played by Lee Marvin, as he's betrayed by his partner, Mal Reese, played by John Vernon, who leaves him for dead after shooting him on Alcatraz Island. But he survived, and Walker returns years later to get his revenge. He gets his first lead on locating Reese by a mysterious man, played by Keenan Wynn, who tells him that Reese is now part of a vast criminal organization and is dating Walker's wife's sister, whose name is Chris. She's played by Angie Dickinson. But after contacting Chris, Walker discovers that in truth, she can't stand Reese and is willing to help him get his justice. The movie was produced by Irwin Winkler, who had really become enthusiastic about the script and felt it would be ideal for Lee Marvin. But they struggled to get the script to Marvin, so they sent it to John Boorman, who was an emerging director that Winkler knew from his management days. Marvin and Boorman meet in London, where the actor is shooting The Dirty Dozen, and they talk about the script and the book it was based on. Both of them hated the script, but they loved the Walker main character. When they agreed to work on the film together, Marvin discarded the script and called a meeting with the head of the studio, the producers, his agent, and the director Boorman. As Boorman recalls the conversation, Marvin said, leading off the meeting, "I have script approval, right?" And they said yes. And then he asked if he had approval of principal cast, and they again said yes. He then turned and looked at director Boorman and said, "I defer all those approvals to John Boorman." Marvin got up and walked out. So on John Boorman's very first film in Hollywood, he had final cut, which never happens, and he made well use of it. MGM agreed to finance the project with a budget of about $2 million, but their head of production wanted the female lead played by Stella Stevens, but Boorman and Marvin insisted on having Angie Dickinson in that role. The film has a really unusual structure to it, and that's due in part to the original script, in which they adhered to the non-linear structure of the novel. This was the first movie that was shot at Alcatraz Island, the famous prison near San Francisco. You see, it was closed in 1963, only a few years before production began. The 2 weeks of shooting in that abandoned prison required the services of 125 crew members to pull it off. Marvin and Wynn both enjoyed shooting at the location. They thought it was really strange and cool, but one of the major concerns they had was about the weather, and they thought that they might need to loop half the dialogue because of it after shooting. During this shoot, Angie Dickinson and Sharon Acker modeled contemporary fashions for Life magazine exclusively against the backdrop of the prison. In other location shots, the director Boorman chose locations that were really stark. For example, the airplane terminal walkway, down which Marvin walked, originally had flower pots that lined the walls. He had those pots taken out to make it look completely bare. Marvin didn't think that John Vernon was a good match for this role, as he felt the actor just wasn't strong enough to contend with him. In the film's commentary, famed director Steven Soderbergh talks about the sound of the footsteps that are made as Walker walks quickly through the airport. And John Borman added to this that when Lee Marvin died, his widow asked the filmmaker if he wanted anything to remember him by. And what he said to her was that he wanted those shoes from that scene. And that's what he got. During the same discussion, they talk about Angie Dickinson and her nude profile that you see in the background. The director recalled a famous comment of hers when she was asked if she dressed for men or women. Her comment was, "I dress for women, I undress for men." Now, one of the actresses that has a very small role in the movie has an extremely interesting story to tell that goes along with her. Her name is Roberta Haynes. She had a pretty busy Hollywood career that could have been much busier had something gone slightly different. You see, she was cast in the movie High Noon, but all of the scenes that she shot ended up on the editing room floor. Had she got the chance to show up with Gary Cooper on the big screen, it would have no doubt really changed her career. But what really makes her story odd and stand out is that during 1952, a full-page photo of her appeared on the back cover of a trade magazine, and this photo caused a stir in Hollywood. Hedda Hopper's syndicated column put out a strong objection to it, and Luella Parsons denounced the photo ad as done in bad taste. The Association of Motion Picture Producers denounced it, saying that salacious photos of females wouldn't lead to success. Now, I've looked for the exact photo, and I'm not sure if the one I'm showing you is that actual photo, but I think it is. And to me, it's not very shocking at all. But we have to realize that this was 1952. She died not too long ago, in April of 2019, in Delray Beach, Florida, at the age of 91. Go back and watch this typical Lee Marvin film. He never disappoints. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.